look at that. Hi guys, it's Brian Backlot 605. Welcome to another episode of the Backlot Box Office. Joining me as always is our resident coming soon and historian, Derrick Veurink. How you doing this afternoon or this evening actually, Derrick?
Yeah, we are well into the evening now, but doing
It's
great.
it's it's dark outside. What's this
That-
daytime thing?
That's
No,
October for you.
right? Oh, and it's only going to get worse from here on out, right?
Yep, that's right.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the nice cooler weather. I'm not ready for the snow yet.
No, no.
No, no, no. So again, welcome to the box office. Here we're going to talk about the top 5 movies of the box office here. Coming in at number 1 this week actually was shockingly, I didn't see this coming here. Is Halloween Kills at $50.35 million. Give us a little bit of info and a little background on this one here, Derek.
Yeah, so I am really happy with this number.
Hmm.
Personally, I was projecting more around the $40 million range because I
Hmm.
figured as we noted here, this movie is day and date on Peacock for
Hmm.
the first 60 days of its theatrical run. And I figured that would take a larger than normal chunk out of the box office for this movie. But 50 million plus is really, really good. That might imply that maybe not as many people watched it on Peacock as Universal and Peacock may have hoped.
Hmm.
I think also there's the factor of when it's October, you want to go to a movie theater to watch a horror movie. This is really the only game in town this month for the most part. So this kind of fills that void as well.
Hmm.
So overall, I'm very happy with how this turned out.
Yeah, I am too, just because I was actually one of those people that watched it at home, watched it on Peacock. I know a few people that did.
Yep.
So it is kind of nice to be able to see that, that Universal was kind of leaning on Peacock, but I think this is a pretty good to show is that, just because you're leaning on it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a horrible box office as long as you've got the movie to back it up.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason I thought, that Peacock was really going to cut into this is because, you know, the horror community, obviously, they're really into streaming. Every
Mhm.
week when Shudder puts out their big new release movie, people are talking about it, so they would have found the way to get into it. So my impression here is that the general audience is really what's bringing it through this weekend. The ones that may not be partially not as streaming savvy, but also just again, as I said, ones that want to see a tentpole horror movie
Mhm.
in a theater. So
And I guess I kind of wonder in terms of Peacock. Peacock to me feels like it's kind of not necessarily like top tier streaming service. It's not like that one kind of streaming service that everybody wants to have. Like everybody wants Disney Plus, everybody wants to have the Netflix and the Hulu kind of thing. Where it's like Peacock seems like it's that I wouldn't call it a second rate service, but that kind of service where people are questioning whether or not they would get it.
yeah, and we should also mention this is only the second time that Peacock has actually tried this day and
Mm-hmm.
date experiment. The first, of course, being the Boss Baby 2: Family Business, which was also 60 days on Peacock, but didn't, as far as I'm aware, it didn't really move the needle there that much. And certainly they were
No.
expecting Halloween Kills to really drive that a lot more.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah. The way it seemed to me, at least from my just going on a Peacock and everything like that, it almost kind of felt like, I never felt like Baby's Day Out ever left Peacock. Like every time I was looking, I guess I never paid attention, but I watched it opening weekend and then it was past that.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So on to number 2. Michael Myers dethrones James Bond and puts James Bond's No Time to Die at number 2, 24.3 million. I mean, obviously we kind of expected this.
Yeah. I mean, certainly the big buildup, that was what was going to take place last weekend. Um, the fact that this is like a 56% drop and not something in the 60s gives
Hmm.
me the indication that there's, you know, like I mentioned last week, the adult audience, the older audience, they're going to come out more slowly to a movie like this. And I think that's really what's going to help it out. in the next few weeks ahead. So the fact that we're closing in on basically $100 million already, probably
Hmm.
looking at somewhere in $150 million when all is said and done. That's probably pretty good given, you know, the pandemic situation that we're in. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think I would have to agree. I mean, the fact that we didn't supersede 60+% this go around is I'd say pretty good. I think you were pretty spot on in terms of those few people that are like, you know what, I'm not going to go opening weekend. It's time for just to wait a week and to follow up with that.
yeah.
All right, number three we have is Venom. Let There Be Carnage at $16.5 million, a 48% drop from last week. Overall, not doing too bad.
No, I mean, to give some context here, so the first Venom ultimately finished at $213 million a few years ago. And
Hmm.
so right now we're looking at 168. We still have 2.5 weeks until the next comic book movie comes out, which is Eternals on November 5th. So Venom still has quite a long runway to go. And I think when all is said and done, it's going to get very, very close to the total that the first movie did, which,
Hmm.
again, given where we're at right now with the state of the box office, that's pretty darn good.
That's
So,
really good. I think that's really, really good. And that takes to question, the how well this movie would have done without a pandemic involved, or you know, maybe if people were more accepting of Venom back when it originally came out. This one actually kind of surprised me. Like I expected this one actually to be lower just because of the first one's
yeah,
original run.
mixed
And
reception. Yep.
exactly.
Now, the one thing I will point out is if you might recall, this current weekend was supposed to be the weekend that Venom was supposed to open against Halloween Kills.
That's right.
Um, and so, if that was the case, Venom would have easily topped Halloween Kills if it had that 90 million weekend versus 50 for Halloween Kills.
Yeah.
Um, so that would have been an interesting little bloodbath that we would have been talking about. But ultimately, Sony made the right call, getting it out there a few weeks early, having a
Hmm.
little bit more runway to be, the comic book movie in town, before the next Marvel movie opened up. So a pretty
Yeah.
good decision on their part.
I think you're right on the multiple accounts. I think pushing it forward, knowing that Disney wasn't going to budge on Eternals,
Nope.
was the better way to go, because not only, yeah, would they be competing against Halloween, but then also 2 weeks later be hitting up Eternals. You
Yep.
absolutely know that Venom would have absolutely not had this kind of box office had it opened this weekend as
Oh
opposed to
no.
3 weeks ago. I
Yep.
would completely agree with that. All right. So yes, number four, we go into the Addams Family 2 at $7.2 million. Actually for a week three, only a 29% drop, which, considering I wasn't expecting a lot out of this film, that's actually really good, but it's only family movie right now, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I see it in two ways. One, you're absolutely right. This is the only animated movie in town. There is a new animated movie coming next weekend, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But the fact that it is the main family treat in town right now, and also it's kind of also gaining from that build up to Halloween to an extent, you know, as families are
Hmm.
kind of looking for that kind of movie to watch right now. I think
Exactly.
that's really helping a lot too.
Yeah. And the fact that we're only I mean, again, 7.2 is not a strong number, but it's also not a horrible number, especially with what coming out of what we've been in. But only a 29% drop, with the fact that somebody can go and get this on home video VOD for $20. That's a pretty good week three, I would honestly feel.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, the first Adams Family that finished at nearly $100 million.
Hmm.
Adams Family 2 is going to get well over 50, probably closer to 60. Which again, for a sequel to a movie that wasn't that well received to begin with, I'm
Hmm.
pretty okay with that. And certainly didn't
Definitely.
cost that much to make either. So
When I would, oh wait, no, I'm thinking of a different movie. I was thinking Hotel Transylvania 4. I was like, wait a minute, I looked at the numbers for that one. That's a whole different conversation right now.
yep.
All right, at number five, and this one kind of threw me. yes, good and bad at the same time. Number 5, The Last Duel, 4.82 million in its first week. The new This is Ridley Scott, right? This is the one of the
Yep.
two Ridley Scotts.
Yes.
Matt, and a solid cast, a solid director, and but just something that has no traction right now.
Yeah, and I've got a few reasons for that. At least from my analysis of it.
Mhm,
The first thing is, this is very much the kind of movie that you really need that adult audience for, because
mhm.
this is a 2.5 hour historical epic. I saw it yesterday. I mean, there's lots of gory battle scenes. There's some decidedly adult content in it as well, because part of the plot line revolves around um, one character raping another and different viewpoints on that story. So it's a very adult tale. And by that reason, you have to have your adult audience showing up.
Mhm.
But also, I should also mention this is one of the movies that Disney kind of inherited from the Fox merger.
Oh, sure.
And because this was well into pre production when the Disney merger closed, and basically it got to the point where it's like, well, we're this far down the road, we might as well finish it. So that's, to my understanding, that's kind of what happened there. And so when you're Disney and you know how to market certain movies toward, your four quadrant audiences, to kids and to families, and everybody in between. When you have a movie like this, that again is very adult in nature, that's not necessarily in their current wheelhouse, so to speak.
Right.
So there's that. And also from the marketing, it certainly didn't let on onto some aspects of, because you could easily get the impression that, okay, this is just another one of Ridley Scott's historical epics, like Gladiator or Kingdom of Heaven or something like that.
Mhm.
But there are some interesting aspects to this movie, because basically what this is basically the same story told three times, and each act is told from a different person's perspective. So the first act of the movie tells the story entirely from Matt Damon's perspective. Then the second act is all through Adam Driver's character's perspective, and the third and final act is all through Jodie Comer's perspective.
Okay.
And so, which sounds interesting, but again, if you looked at the trailers and TV spots for this movie, you'd have no idea that that's how this movie is built.
Right.
So ultimately, I'm not surprised. Again, I think there's just a lot of factors that were kind of working against it. And so the fact that it did start off this low to begin with, also the fact that it is an over 2.5 hour long movie, that also doesn't help either, especially when you
True.
have No Time to Die, which is another super long movie, kind of taking that adult audience from you as well.
Yeah. It almost feels that the way you're saying it, I mean, is it's not necessarily say that it's a bad movie, but at least for the sake of maybe Disney's kind of things, it's maybe more of a throwaway movie at this point. It's just, they inherited it, they just want to get it out and get it over with.
Yeah, the people I know who have seen it, they've really
Mhm.
enjoyed it. Again, you see, I noted there's a B plus cinema score on this movie, which is pretty
Mhm.
good, all told. So certainly, it's got the good word of mouth working for it. It's just that too few people showed up for it in the first place.
Yeah. Do you think that this one may have played better being just maybe uh like if they would have sold this to like Hulu, or not necessarily sold to Hulu, but to like
Send
Netflix
it
or
to
something
streaming.
like that, send it to streaming or even just a premium VOD kind of thing? Do you think that maybe it would have gotten more eyes on it?
I would say that if it had like a streaming run as its premiere, I think it certainly would have been a lot more worthy, or certainly a lot more people would be engaged by it and discussing it.
Mhm.
But again, the way as it stands, it's going to have like all the other Fox movies that Disney's distributing. It's going to have that 45-day window, so it's not going to be until Thanksgiving ish when people are going to be able to watch it at home anyway. So there you go.
Definitely. All right. Well, that would be the top 5, for the box office this week. We have is Halloween Kills at $50.35 million. We have No Time to Die at 24.3 million. Venom Let There Be Carnage at 16.5. The Addams Family 2 at 7.2 million, and finally The Last Duel at $4.82 million for the week. So I mean, honestly, for the sake of the box office, not a bad box office. I mean, pretty strong considering. everything we've got going on right now, I think.
Yeah, again, we're really in that season where we've had like a super huge blockbuster every week because
Mhm.
2 weekends ago was Venom. Last weekend it's No Time to Die. This weekend is Halloween Kills, and next weekend we have Dune, which is
Yes.
gonna eke out that box office territory as well. And again, that's going to be a very interesting story because that's going to be on HBO Max day and date.
Yep.
So I'll be very curious, again, not unlike what we just talked about with Halloween Kills, is seeing just how much Dune is going to get impacted by that HBO Max. Because again, that's really a movie that's built for the big screen.
Absolutely.
And I certainly know many people that are going to see it on a big screen, even though they do have the HBO Max option. So
You and I are two of those people.
yep, yep. So again, I am very curious what next weekend is going to look like for that.
Do we have any other ones that are coming out to kind of compete against Dune that we might be looking out for?
Yeah, so I mentioned when we were talking about the Addams Family, there's another animated movie coming out next
Mhm.
weekend. This is also coming out from Disney via Fox. It's Ron's Gone Wrong, which stars Zach
Yes.
Galifianakis as the malfunctioning robot. So, and again, that even though that is also a carryover from
Mhm.
Fox pre-merger, Disney is much more suited to market a movie like that. So,
Agreed.
so that'll do fairly well. And then on the art house side, we are having the um, first weekend for Wes Anderson's The French Dispatch, which has kind of been touted as one of the big quote unquote art house blockbusters to really help fire off the specialty box office again. So that's going to be opening in just 12 cities next weekend. But, Wes Anderson movies, they perform really well right out of the gate. So we'll definitely look at that next weekend too.
That'll be interesting to see how that all turns out. I am kind of curious too, especially for the sake of Dune. Like you said, I mean, as soon as tickets went on sale, I went to get it because you're absolutely correct. It's a big screen type of film. I expected not to watch it any other way, but yeah, I'll be definitely curious to see just because I think HBO has a little bit more of that grab than like say what Peacock did on Halloween.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, we're 9, 10 months into the whole HBO Max dual release deal at this point. So
Hmm.
people definitely know what movies are coming down the pipe on that service. So
Definitely. All right. Well, that has been the box office for this week, with the number one being Halloween Kills. So definitely go out, check out some movies. Let's make this great again. Um, Next week we will be back yet again. And and speaking of that, in regards to also what like Derek was talking about here, definitely go on to Backlot 605. Check out the coming soon article that Derek puts so much time and energy in and helps me with my homework every week. You definitely want to check it out. He's very thorough in terms of what's coming out and where to go find or find those movies.
yeah.
Also, too, what we decided to is we're gonna have a little bit of fun and breaking off the little nuggets of funness that Derek and I have planned. So definitely check out our box office bonus this week is actually going to be talking about the Blumhouse movies, franchises. What's kind of what's been playing good for them and where that money's been going. So definitely make sure to go check that out once you get done watching this.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, perfect. Well, everybody, you guys have a great week, and we will see you next week.
Bye.